Hi guys, in this video, I want to give you a hack for CeMAP 3. So generally speaking, CeMAP 3 tends to be the last exam that people do, although not always, and it generally is the one that people struggle with most. But it's not because you don't know the content if you've already passed CeMAP 2, actually you know the content, it's just because the layout is slightly different. So with CeMAP 3, you already know that it's multiple choice questions, just like CeMAP 1 and CeMAP 2, that it's 60 multiple choice questions. You get 2 hours to do it, but the main difference is it's case study based. And what that means is when you log into your exam, your screen will be split down the middle. On one side, you'll get a case study, and on the other side, you will get one question at a time. So you're going to get 6 case studies in total, 10 questions per case study. And if you've watched any of my training on CeMAP 3 before, you'll know already that you need to be really hot on life insurance, and that the biggest hack I can give to you is to read the question first, ignore the case study, and then ask yourself, okay, do I need the case study to answer this question? You already know that, but I've got a lot of students recently that are finding some questions really difficult when it comes to picking the correct mortgage product for them. So not protection, because we've done protection, but mortgage product. And that's because you can get questions along the lines of which type of mortgage product would best suit Neil. Now, Neil is the guy in your case study, and you'll have 4 options, just like all the other questions. One might be a 2-year fixed 4.5% interest rate with a portability option. One might be a 5-year product with a 3% interest rate and no portability option over a 25-year term. One might be a 3.75% mortgage product that runs over 30 years, that has no portability option, and that is a tracker mortgage. And your 4th option might be an interest-only mortgage that runs for 20 years with no additional benefits. People see these questions and they panic. And generally what happens is people do one or two things. Either they panic so much that they don't bother to look at the question and they just pick the one with the lowest interest rate, which I can almost guarantee is never the right answer. Or they go through each option and they try and work out what their repayments would be on each of those mortgage products, and they just pick the cheapest one. Both of those methods are usually wrong. So I'm going to walk you through the 4 steps that if you follow them, you should get all of these questions right. And before I move on to the 4 steps, the first thing that I want to lead with is please do not just pick the one with the cheapest interest rate. Actually, that's what most people do in a panic. It's almost never the right answer. But if you follow these next 4 steps, and I would write these down as you're going along, you are generally going to be able to get to the right answer. So step 1, obviously read the question, read it again, then rule out any options that you can. If you can't rule out any of the 4 options, the first thing you are looking for is risk. So that is your header for number 1, it's risk. And what I mean by that is every product will have a different risk level or risk rating. Fixed rate products are generally the lowest risk because they're fixed and it's not going to go up or down. You do still run the risk of overpaying if interest rates drop, so it's not completely risk-free. But generally speaking, if you've got a client in your case study, Neil, who says he is particularly risk-averse and he is worried about interest rate increases, a fixed rate product is usually a good match. But what can we rule out? Let's work on a what can we rule out basis. So if we know that Neil is particularly risk-averse, the first thing to do is to completely eliminate interest-only mortgages. So under your risk header, write down, wants no risk, do not give interest-only mortgage. That's it. Then you're going to look at the other 3 products and go, okay, is there a best match? And it might be that the fixed rate is a best match. It might be that the standard variable rate is the best match. The aim of this is to try and rule out one option for each product. So with that example, great, we've ruled out interest only because he doesn't want a huge amount of risk. Cool. But we've still got 3 left. So where do we go next? Your second point is the mortgage term. Now this is different to the product term. And I need you to really clearly understand the difference between these 2. So if you take out a mortgage, you might take out a mortgage for 20, 25, 30 years. I believe you can now get 35-year mortgage products. That's cool, but that is totally dependent on your age. So if Neil is in his mid-40s, he's not going to be able to get a 30-year mortgage because they can only run up until retirement age. Now, you guys who already work in the mortgage industry are going to go, Charlotte, you can definitely get a mortgage beyond that. Yes, I know, and you are absolutely right. For the purposes of CeMAP, we can only consider him up until retirement age, unless the case study has specifically told us that we can use his retirement income as part of his affordability check. But as far as I'm aware, nobody's ever had that in CeMAP 3. So the second point is the mortgage term. And you're going to look at Neil's age, which will be in the case study. And then you're going to look at your 3 different options. And you are going to try and rule one out, because the retirement age at the minute is 67, due to go up to 68, but you use 67 as of reading this or watching this in 2026. And you're going to see which product you can rule out. You can usually always rule out one, which is great, because now we've got 2 products left to pick from. The next one is product term. So if you know that mortgage term is to do with the full length of the product and your age, the product term is to do with that particular mortgage offer that you are going to sign up to. People don't get the same mortgage product for the full 25-year mortgage. You used to be able to get lifetime products, but we don't see them anymore. And actually, as a mortgage advisor, you don't want to give them a 25-year product, because they're not going to come back to you for that whole 25 years. So they usually have a 2, 3, or 5-year product term. And what happens at the end of that term is they go on to their standard variable rate, unless you, the mortgage advisor, gets back in touch with them and ties them into another product. Go through the case study and look for any suggestion that Neil might want to move house. It might be because of school catchment. He might want to move because of his work commitments. Or he might want to live with his mum for a bit of time, buy it as a buy-to-let, and then move in 2 years. Go through the options. You want to make sure that the product term is always lower than whatever his next plans are. So if he wants to move in 5 years' time, you're not going to give him a 5-year product, because if he moves in year 5 and he's still in that product, he is going to have early repayment charges. Actually, if it specifies that he wants to move out or move house in 2 years, unless the product has a portability option, which remember only one of those products did, any other term above 2 years is not going to be suitable. So we've done risk, we've done mortgage term, we've done product term. There's just one left, and that's the additional features. So I mentioned a second ago portability. If you've never heard of portability before, it's a feature that you can get with certain mortgage products that allows you to effectively port your mortgage from one property to another, which in Neil's circumstances, if he wants to move, that's great. Actually, he would want that, because if he can't port his mortgage, that would mean paying off his mortgage early if he decides to move within the product term, and that comes with really hefty early repayment charges. So look at the additional features. It might be that it's a portability option. It might be that Neil earns a really good bonus once a year, and he said that actually he would like to make overpayments on his mortgage with that bonus because he's savvy and he wants to be mortgage free earlier. In which case we want to see an overpayment facility, because that's going to be really important. If he doesn't have an overpayment facility, he's going to get charged every single time he makes an overpayment on his mortgage. So just to recap, if you can go through these 4 steps, you know straight away that we're not going to just pick the one with the lowest interest rate. What you're going to do is you're going to rule out what you can, and you're going to look at risk first. Is he super risk tolerant? In which case, do we want to look at interest-only products? Are there any capital and repayment products that you want to rule out? Or is he particularly risk averse? In which case, we know we're going to get rid of the interest-only products. Then step 2 is to look at the mortgage term. How old is your client, and how long does that product have to run? Now, if it doesn't mention how long the mortgage runs for, we know that that's not a consideration. You can skip that step and go straight to point 3, but have a look at his age and have a look at the mortgage term. Can you rule anything out there? Point number 3 is the product term. So does Neil want to move at any point, or is there any suggestion that his circumstances with regards to the mortgage is going to change and he might want to come out of it? Maybe he's due to get an inheritance in the next 5 years. Whatever it is, look for the term and make sure that the product term is shorter than that time period. Otherwise, he's going to get shafted with an early repayment charge. And point number 4 is the additional features. Always look out for overpayment facilities if it is that he's keen to pay off his mortgage. Portability options if he wants to move and there's no product term that can rule anyone out. The portability option is the one you're going to want to go with. As long as you follow those 4 steps, you should be able to get those questions right. And a lot of people say they have at least 2 questions to do with which products you need to recommend per case study. That means in a 60-question exam, that's 12 questions. That's over 10% of the grade, and you really don't want to get that wrong. So make sure that you've written these steps down and put it into practice if you can. Get your hands on some mock papers. If you're using something like my e-learning platform, there are loads of case studies and questions in there. I think at the minute there's 12 case studies, so there's around 120 questions that you can have a go at. If you're already in the e-learning platform, then great. Make sure you go back to those. But practice these 4 steps. And as always, if you've got any questions or if there's anything in particular that you're struggling with your CeMAP studies, make sure that you let me know and I can make more content on it. Good luck.